Hello guys, I'm Shadow Duke.
And I'm Manderlin.
Welcome to our Runescape Rambles series. In this series, we're going to be talking about things related to Runescape, whether it's a rant, praise, or even something we want to see in-game.
Every video is going to be about something random, so stay tuned to hear all of the topics we'll be discussing as new videos come out. When thinking about if you want to like this video, we'd appreciate it if you did it based on whether or not you like the concept of this discussion series, and not based on if you agree or disagree with our opinion.
Instead, share your opinions in the comments. We would love to hear where you guys stand on our discussions, so let's get into it.
So we talked about before in another video how RuneScape is pretty good when it comes to combat and unique in the sense that you don't have to just pick one style and stick with it and level that up throughout the whole game.
And as good as that is, that can cause some interesting problems where the whole player community, or at least most of it, can kind of go towards only one combat style, like the range meta currently.
Yeah, so today we wanted to kind of go over how much of an impact the RuneScape community seems to have on what kind of combat style you should specifically use.
Something you need to consider when choosing the best style for you, or typically what's stronger, is can you actually afford it? Because one of the things that make range the best combat style is the fact that Greater Ricochet is so strong and it's a basic ability. Pretty much as strong as your thresholds. But if you can't afford it, then it's not going to be that great.
Yeah, there's also other weapons like the Eldritch Crossbow. Obviously using that with the special for that will be really good, but if you can't actually afford it, then range might not actually be better for you than another style that you have stuff for.
Currently, as of making this video, the Eldritch Crossbow is over 3 bill. Now that's a lot of money. Now if you wanted to get probably similar results and have a really strong combat style, you could also just go with magic and get an Inquisitor staff, which is much cheaper.
But since range is currently the most preferred combat style, all of the stuff for that is going to be pretty inflated. So you're going to have to end up paying a lot more money for this kind of gear than maybe for the other combat styles.
So not even going into the abilities, which is going to be extremely expensive as well, if we just want to buy the weapon, if you want to get an Eldritch Crossbow, that's going to be 3 bill, where you can actually get 2 Kopeshes and a ZGS for 2.2 bill. But theoretically, you don't really need to get both, you could always just get one, and that would end up being 1 bill, which is 2 bill cheaper than the Eldritch Crossbow.
And for magic, you have the Inquisitor staff, which is going for about 530 mil. And since the Inquisitor staff only works as a 97 against melee, if you wanted to also get the staff with Slisky, that's only going to be 740 mil. So both of those staffs are significantly less money than the Eldritch Crossbow.
One of the main things that brings range ahead of the others is also the ability that you need to buy. But that just adds extra money onto the already expensive skill that it is, because now you need to spend like 1.5 bill on just getting Greater Ricochet.
Even if range really is the current best skill, it may not even be worth it if you can't even afford the stuff that you need for that style. So using magic or melee may end up being better for you just because you can actually afford the gear you need for it, and you'll get more out of it because you're actually able to use it. But then I guess what if you want to fight a specific boss that supposedly has a best combat style to use against it? So like Telos, I usually hear that people say that magic is the best combat style for Telos, but you could get away with doing other combat styles with it.
I know, for instance, I prefer ranged over at Telos because I actually know how to use range properly, as where I don't really know how to use magic properly. So between using magic and range, I would always get the better kills with my range because I actually knew what I was doing.
And that's actually a really important point because it's one thing to just get all the gear that you need for, say, range, like get the Eldritch Crossbow, get the Greater Ricochet and everything you need for that. And it's a whole other thing to actually know what you're doing for it. Because I know me, when I was getting Greater Barge for when I was doing melee, I had to actually learn the appropriate method to use the Greater Barge to actually make use of it.
Now, other than the meta that people create, there are specific bosses that you can only attack with certain combat styles. Some of these bosses being Legions, where he's immune to any combat style except for ranged. Kree, you need to use either ranged or magic, or Corporal Beast, where you need to use a spear, otherwise you'll only hit 50% of your damage. Now the reason I bring this up is because, you have to think about what bosses you're going to be killing when choosing a combat style, because you don't want to dump all your money into one style and realize you need another to kill that boss.
But with some other bosses, you have some more freedom with that. Like for Araxi, I've heard that using range and melee were the better combat styles to use against him. But for me personally, even before I got the Inquisitor staff, I always liked using Mage. Aside from the fact that you can have a better chance of getting the Fang with magic, it was just a style that I personally felt more comfortable with, even though it wasn't seen at the time as the best combat style for Araxi. It may not be the fastest style, I may not be getting more kills an hour using magic than I would be from using melee or range or something, but I don't really care about that. At the end of the day, it's something that I'm comfortable with, so I'm going to stick with that style.
So the question is, should you focus on a single combat style just because it's the strongest?
No, you should be able to use any combat style you want against any boss, unless it's one of those few bosses that you need to use a specific style on, like we said before. It really shouldn't matter what combat style you're using.
The nice thing I noticed about this community, when trying to find groups at least, is they usually don't really care what combat style you use. Just because range is the strongest, they're not expecting you to use ranged. You can go in there with melee, ranged, mage, and everybody will be happy for the most part.
Yeah, and you have people out here who are fighting like Telos and Raksha with no food. So if that's a thing that people are able to do, you can definitely kill any boss in this game with whatever combat style you want, as long as you know what you're doing. That's the key thing there.
That's definitely the biggest takeaway. Know what you're doing. Learn your style before you use it.
So now we want to ask you guys some stuff and hear what you think. What are your thoughts on the current range meta? What do you think about all of that? How do you feel about how it's making the prices for all the range gear go up as well? And what are your thoughts on the urge to use the best style, which would currently be range? Do you ever feel like you're forced to use a specific style, or do you feel like you could just use whatever you want, even if it might not be the quote-unquote best style?
So let us know what you think in the comments. And we would like to thank you all for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe for more future content. And a special thanks to all our Patreons who are supporting us.
And we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.